he put the insurance documents in the suitcase, which went with our stuff by sea, the other side, and it was in the container. And we're like, we get to the end of the Schengen border, and they're like, oh, okay, where's your paperwork? And we're like,
Welcome to a new episode of Most Memorable Journeys. My guest today is an amazing lady who has a business with an amazing name, and she does a lot of things, and she's done a lot of things in her life. But I want to introduce her as a Master Herbalist, Naturopath, nutrition consultant. And the other thing that I read, and I actually only read today, I didn't know that you were that, you're a holistic and behavioural iridologist. Welcome to Most Memorable Journeys, Caroline Evans.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. Fabulous. Lovely to be here with you. Always lovely to speak to you.
And it's lovely to have you here. I miss you because we know each other from Cyprus. You used to live in Cyprus, but you're not here anymore. But thank God to the technical devices that we can use and that we can have a little chat through.
We're sat together right now. It's beautiful. I know, it's amazing. Although I would much prefer to have that over in lovely frappe or something, right a bit. Overlooking some beautiful marina.
We'll do it soon, somewhere, sometime. Yeah. Tell me, how did it all start? I only found out recently, even though I've known you for quite a while, that you grew up in Oman. And when were you on a plane for the first time? And how did this happen? How come you grew up in Oman?
Okay. Well, I mean, yes, to answer both those questions. The first time I was ever on a plane, I think I was 3. And we went to Sicily for my first ever holiday. And I remember a massive, great big beach ball and all these topless women playing beach ball. It was hilarious. I remember my older brother, who was about 6 at the time, just being gobsmacked. He was like, I don't know what's going on. So that's that memory. I lived in Oman. My dad was in the oil industry. And we went when I was about 3.5. And it was quite funny, actually, because we were meant to go and live in the Bahamas because he accepted a job there. And he's really quite a specialist in his field. He was cleaning up oil refineries. So, I always say he was doing a good job in a bad industry, if you like, for what it does to the environment. Anyway, we were going to go to the Bahamas, and apparently an old gypsy turned up at our doorstep. And I do remember her because my mum kept the plastic rose that she gave her. And she said, you're going to go somewhere hot, but really sandy, much hotter than you ever thought. So lo and behold, my dad came back that day, and she didn't know. I mean, it wasn't obvious we were going anywhere. All the suitcases were in another room ready to go that week to Bahamas. And my dad came back, no, we're not going to Bahamas, we're going to Oman. And we went out there, and I remember arriving in my ET t-shirt with my brother and our little red shorts, just crashing out on the floor going, I can't handle this heat. It was so hot. And then, of course, learning about the virtues of air conditioning. And I was there and of course, the scorpions can come through the air conditioning too, because there's a lot of that as well, and cockroach nests in the bed and all this wonderful stuff that I didn't know that I needed to know about. I was there from about the age of 3.5 till 12. Till 12. So I had some quite informative years there. And it was a magical upbringing. I feel really, really blessed to have had that because, I mean, yes, part of the oil refinery, we went to the clubs and stuff, the PDO club, and did all these swimming galas and all this. But we also got to see the real life of Oman, the Bedouins, and going out wadi bashing. We do that every week where you get in a Jeep and you just go off on these old dirt roads and, go exploring caves like that had fish that had no eyes that were stuck on the walls. I mean, there's just because it's just such a dark cave and the water's so cold, and that was just a luxury in Oman. So, and being bitten by a poisonous snake and all just amazing memories, and like I said, some things I didn't want to know, but really, very much, I think it really helped to shape me to be more of an outward seeing person, to see a bigger picture. I mean, travel, and it was amazing upbringing. I'm very blessed to have had that. I love Oman. Oman's a jewel of the Middle East. Oh, beautiful.
I have never been to Oman, and I've been meaning to go and wanting to go. And, did you go to school? Did you go to an international school?
I did. I went to a place called Muscat English Speaking School. Yeah, it was an international school. And it was great education. I was learning, who would know that I would marry a Frenchman, but I was learning French at 7. And that was really great. The facilities there were amazing. I remember my mum worked for the school. I remember when we'd get at the end of the day, I'd be the last kid there, me and my brother. And I'd always find my way to the art room that was so full of all these beautiful colored papers and this creativity. But yeah, it was a really great education there and a lot of outdoors. I mean, you start at school 7:30, like Cyprus, finish 1:30, and then you hit the beach. You know, that was what you did. You hit the beach or you stay inside in air conditioning, whichever. But generally, you'd hit the beach and you just go swimming or you go to the swimming pool club. And it was just, yeah, really, really magical. And I had far too much Angostura bitters and lemonade, actually, as a child. I only found out that I was alcoholic in my older years.
It didn't do you any harm. You're fine. Are you in touch with anybody from that school?
Actually, yes, I am. I've got a very good friend, and they live in Wales. Their parents live in Wales. My parents, it's kind of like that kind of thing when you're young, you know, you hang out with the families stick together. So yes, there are a couple of them there are a few of us that still know each other, but we see each other. They now live in the Cayman Islands, which is beautiful, and their parents are in Wales. So we're still in touch with them. And every year they come back to Wales and we hang out together. They've got kids now, so our kids hang out together. And yeah, amazing. Like I've known them now, 35 plus years. Yeah, 40 years.
So after Oman, you went back to the UK?
I did, yes. We went after Oman, I'm originally Welsh, born in Pembrokeshire, and then we went to Oman. And then after Oman, we left because the school ran out. So my brother was sent to boarding school for a short time. And I refused to get taught by nuns, bless anybody listening to this. So they were like, okay, 12, time to come back. And we moved to Greater London. So we were there. And that was a bit of a shock because we went from this nice spaciousness that was Oman to this tiny little flat in Greater London, because the cost of prices, like my parents were very nurtured and looked after in a place like Oman. When you're an expat, or an expat brat, as they call us, then you really are, things are taken care of you, the car, the house, they are, it's all part of the job. And you come back to somewhere like London, it's a real shock to the system. But then I went to a local comprehensive. It was an interesting experience. I wouldn't say it was a pleasant one at all, because I had been, just basically naked for like 9 years in Oman, practically naked, for all those years. And I was so brown. I mean, I do go brown in the sun, but I was really super brown. And when I went to this all-white school outside of Richmond, they would call me a Paki for years. Not for years, sorry. I was so brown. And they were quite racist. So for about, there was only white kids there at the time and Caucasians. And for about, I think it was about 6 months I had racist abuse there. And then my tan faded. I'm like, hey, what were you talking about? Exactly. But it was interesting to actually, I'm quite grateful for that experience, because I kind of understand prejudice on that level. I'm very grateful for that, because I think living overseas as well, and I do have this traveling bone in my body, definitely. I kind of, to me, people are people. It doesn't matter where you're from. And some of the most interesting people do not come from where I'm from, or they do. But it doesn't matter where they're from. It's what's in your heart and who you are, and which is the same thing. So it was very interesting to have that experience, because it's made me understand more what people go through in prejudices.
Isn't it crazy though? Because I say exactly the same what you just said, because we've been living in different places and traveling all over the place. For me, everybody is the same. We're all the same. We all have the same needs and we all have the same fears and whatever. But you forget, when you are a person like we are, you forget how small-minded people can think and how horrible they can be.
100%. It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
And
so unnecessary.
Racism.
We all go to the toilet the same way. I mean,
very true. Yeah. And no child is a racist. It's taught. It comes from somebody who programs you, who conditions you. So there's a lot of work to be done there. So after that, how did you? Because I don't know how far we're going to jump. Because you how old were you when you came to Cyprus?
Oh, Cyprus. I then I studied. I did degrees in London, and then I came to Cyprus. I was 26.
Okay.
Yeah, 26, just turned 26. So I had that time in London, all over different parts of London, university, etc. And then so I was 26. I came to London, and if you like, I had as a 17-year-old traveled around Greece, and I love Greece. I love the Greek islands. I love the Elare Katikato. I like this I like the whole, I mean, even as I talk, I'm starting to gesticulate with my hands because I just love that heartwarming expressiveness of the Mediterranean. I really love it. So I really fitted in nicely in Greece. And so it was always on the radar. I would love to, what if? And I had a good friend of mine, a guy called Jono. He was an Oriental medical doctor from Australia. And he lived in Cyprus. And he used to, and I met him through a friend. We became good mates. And he always used to come and crash at my house in London, in my flat, and he'd dump all his stuff there. So, hey, come on, John, I'd like, my loft is not just for you. And one day I decided that, I was going to get him back, or he'd just turn up at my house. So I called him up and I said, what are you doing on Wednesday? And he goes, not a lot. I'm in Cyprus. I'm just chilling. I said, great. Could you come pick me up from Paphos Airport? So that was it. So I went out to Cyprus for, I think it was a week's holiday. Yeah, a week's holiday. And in that time, Jono was, he was kind of stood out from the crowd, this guy, bless him. And he knew a lot of interesting people. And he took me to visit this botanist there, who then took me to the herb garden and said, would you like to run this place? I'm like, well, yeah, what is it to run? As far as I can see, it's like, there's some herbs here. There's like oregano I could recognize. There's nice big bay trees, but, the rest is like dust. And it's like, what is going on? And he goes, well, yeah, this was set up as an indigenous plants of Cyprus garden at the old schoolhouse. He goes, but as is the way oftentimes in places like Cyprus, is it just was not managed and therefore it just died. So he said, it needs resurrecting. Do you want to do it? So I said, okay. So I went home, and at the time I was a nutrition consultant in London. So I was working for myself, so it was no bother. And I said to my parents, right, I'm just going to go over to Cyprus. Maybe I'll be a couple of months, maybe a couple of years. And I really thought it'd be a couple of years. And then off I toddled. And then I kind of, like, as you do, met a man who kept me there a bit longer. And then, set up the business.
No, we're not going that fast. We're
yeah, sorry.
We're not getting away with that so quickly. So which garden was that? Was that Pano Akodalia?
Pano Akodalia, yeah. Pano Akodalia. It was set up by the Leona Project in the 1990s, early 1990s. And and it was like good European money, but then it just was not looked after. There was, they left the village to manage themselves. And they had an old mukta back then called Movro Mustakos. And the only thing he could manage was the 10 Cyprus pounds in his pocket that he'd get from the truckers dumping the skata from the building site over the ravine. I mean, his wallet was full of 10 pound notes, 10 Cyprus pound notes. Amazing. So he was.
So you came from Oman to London, and then you ended up in this village. And for the people who are listening to us and who are not from Cyprus, it's a very small village.
28 people. And most of the time, about 8 or 9. In the winters, 8 people.
Suddenly they were 29, including Caroline Evans.
Well, her cats, exactly. Bana Yamo, as they say. And there's a whole joke about Bano and Gato Akodalia, saying that it's like the United States of America. It's like, you're in Bano or you're in Gato.
Well, that's the funny part about many of those villages, because Bano means upper and Gato means lower of this village. And then it's just about 5-6 houses. So.
Exactly. It's just one big village, same.
So you started planting or reviving, and how did it go?
Okay. Well, I was, when I properly went in there, I was literally starting work there at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I did lots of kind of like architectural drawings on how I wanted it to look, because there was a whole massive bit at the back. Nothing happened there. It was like dead. I was like, wow, okay. So the first thing we did is I had a friend there who I'd met, a guy called Sotiri, who's over the Rainbow Bridge now, but he was a lavender distiller. And he used to have Aphrodite oils, beautiful soul. And his wife, Poppy, they don't have the business anymore, I don't think. Because they don't distill anymore, but she might have some more product left. But yeah, really a great guy. He taught me to distill. And he said, Gori, would you like to have my still up at the herb garden? Because, you've got this place, people can come. So first thing we did, we put a little concrete patch down, and we put the still there. We made a whole space for the still. And then I propagated that whole area, that it then became beautiful rows of mountain tea, lavender. What else? I had rosehip, Messini myrtle, oregano. I had wormwood, thyme, lots of thrombi, which is the wild thyme, and cultivated thyme, southernwood, wormwood. Yeah, lots, and verbena, lemon verbena. Yeah, lots of herbs. So I did that, as well as resurrecting the actual garden that was, just a few plots, and then I had to fill it in. It was almost easier to start with the empty patch and start with a blank slate than it was to try to sort out this kind of like, there's a few trees and the rest is dead. It's like, whoa, what do we do there? And dealing with irrigation dealing with the village mukhtaris was, I think I saw out 3 mukhtaris at that place in the time I was there. I was like, wow. And I was still there. I was like, wow, no wonder they called me heaven on earth herbalist, because I really did learn to survive. I mean, anyone who knows a village in Cyprus, the politics is unbelievable. The corruption too. Sorry, I know this is big in Cyprus right now, but it was very true. It's like, you become mukhtar because you want that street or whatever, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, but that is still, that was definitely the case with Akkodalia when I was there. But the Kanto Akkodalia, he was very nice muktari as well. But yeah, they were all lovely in their own way, nice in their own ways. But yeah, they had an agenda. And yes, it was, they didn't make my life easy, let's say that, at all. I'm a Kobela, a young Kobela. What do I know? A young girl from a Xenos, from a strange, from somewhere else. What the hell does she know? Inglesica, and understandable. I know that I'm from Wales, from a small village in Wales, so I get that mentality that it's like, hey, who do they think they are coming in and doing this? But I did great work in Akkodalia for
You also integrated very well in Cyprus, and you participated in all those events, and you went to Mind, Body, and Spirit. But I was just thinking when you were saying that it's easier to plant an empty plot than to fix. For me, it's like it's easier to do a translation than to fix a translation that somebody else has made. It takes a lot more. It's because you can start from scratch. So then you met a man.
I did meet a man. I did meet a man. Yes, absolutely. I met a Frenchman, and we met on the stage, as you do in Cyprus. I was talking about herbal medicine and detoxification, and he was talking about osteopathy. And I remember making a joke. He goes, does anybody know who an osteopath is? And nobody said anything. And I put my hand up and I said, yes, you're a bunch of manipulators, aren't you? I was like, that was the beginning of our relationship. God bless him. We were good friends for a while, because I really, after being single in Cyprus for a while, I was really, really not ready to meet Kamaki, meet anybody. I was like, nope, I really don't, not interested. I just want to focus on what I'm doing. But yeah, he's bless him. He was.
You started managing the herb garden, which is actually called Heaven on Earth Herb Garden. You did that together. Did you do that? I don't remember. Was he involved?
No. Clem was not involved. The time when Clem became involved was a bit later. After we met, he came involved. But initially, it was me, and I set up the garden. And then, in order to have the garden, not only did I have to and the schoolhouse, I had to pay the rent, of course, and all the bills, etc. But I also had to open a coffee shop on site, as is the way in small villages. You need a coffee shop. So I had a little herb tea coffee shop on there, so I had to manage that as well. And I set up into the big room, I set up a shop where I'd see patients, as well as drying racks, and people could come and see how you dry things, etc. And then later on, I'd always had this dream of, I could see, and it's a bit bizarre, but when I first arrived at the herb garden, with Jono, took me there, my friend, years ago. And I remember holding the 1,000-year-old olive tree, and I just kind of like had this like brief vision of lots of kind of stalls around and lots of people walking around and looking at that. And I was like, whoa, this then developed into, oh my God, that vision is like a farmer's market. And I'd love to do that here, because I felt that there was a kind of lack of authentic farmer's market. There was one in Paphos town centre, and that was great. But other than that, there was like, an organic as well. And that's what I promote with my, the whole natural, yes, it's right not to spray your crops. And yes, it does make a difference if it's organic. So it was, and to teach that ethos. So that's where Clem came in. And he really, I called him my Mr. Moment Man, because I'm a great planner and I can make it happen and bring the people in, etc. But on the day, he was the man organizing all the stall holders and just making sure. And I would just literally be able to go in and be the boss on that day and just relax and talk to people. And that was great. So that's where we worked really closely together, as he came in and he managed the farmers markets, which was fabulous. It worked really well. And actually, it's funny, when we first met, he wanted me to move down to Yeroskipul, because he had a house down there. And I was like, what, you want me to leave and then commute every day to the herb garden? And I lived 200 meters from the herb garden. Anyway, he saw sense and moved up. And he was so glad that he did, because then he opened a clinic next to the house. and then he could walk 5 seconds to work, which suited him nicely. So yeah,
I remember I have this memory of a Christmas market that we came to with Catherine, and Christmas is, the Cypriot sky in the winter is so blue, and up there where you were, and all these people wearing those red hats. I have these very, very fond memories. It was a fantastic day. Yes, I can actually literally see it in front of me. And you did that so well. But then you had all these babies.
I did have all these babies. Yes. A couple of years after we got married, and Clem and I got married in the village as well, because it was important to us to do that. And there was an old church there called Simeon, just between Panoarcodalia and Milieu, and it had been resurrected after 600 years, and no one had ever had a marriage there, so we were very pleased to have a wedding in there. And my mum reminded me recently. She goes, "You know that your name is up in that church?" I say, "Really?" I was the only English name inscribed in the church. It's like the 10 Commandments, my dad always used to say. But I'm there because we all contributed to paying for that church to be made, to be rebuilt. So it's lovely. It's a tiny little church, and we got married there. We had the party at the Herb Garden, which, of course, was a great place to have it. And then, 2 years later, a little fledgling Dylan arrived, my now 7-year-old, gosh. And, he arrived. And then a couple of years later, Amelie arrived, and having kids changes the goalposts. You can't do what you used to do. I mean, having a 2-year-old in my herb shop, I mean, it's fine when he's out in the garden. Dylan was out picking the rose hips, and people will be coming into the herb shop and saying, "Oh, you know that there's a little kid, he's just got shorts on, no top on, and he's just in the middle of the spiky bushes with a mouthful of red. Is he allowed to be eating those?" I said, yeah, he knows what they are. And at such a young age, he'd say to people, this rose, or he'd call it lasmarie, and this is lavender. And he'd say lasmarie, lavender. And not most people, but a lot of people came to the herb garden didn't know the difference between rosemary and lavender. Nowadays they don't. So bless him, he was really in touch. But get a 2-year-old in the herb shop with all those bottles and creams and balms. I mean, oh my God, it was like, get him out of here. I realized that the business took off so much, and it was my absolute love, but I was going to miss out on the kids if I didn't make a choice. And it was that case. And there's nothing like needing your mother when you have kids. My dad had just died, and we're like, okay, you know what? Now is the time that we go to the UK, and we'll see where we land from there. But there was the next stopgap.
Did you have your third baby before you left?
No. I had 2 babies when we left.
So that was the second baby that was 6 months old. Tell me about how you traveled to the UK from Cyprus. Yes. That is fascinating. That's definitely a most memorable journey.
100%. Yeah, that was. We drove in our Diplo Gambino, which was a twin cab.
Yes.
24-year-old twin cab, magic. And we drove it across Europe. So, and we just went out the back of Cyprus, went out the back door, and we just crossed Cyprus because Cyprus, they don't have the ferry. I think they're changing it now, aren't they? They're bringing the ferry back.
About a month ago, the first one.
Oh, wow. Yes. Perfect, because they didn't used to have that when I was there, and you couldn't drive out, say, of Limassol or anything. So we had friends in the north. We went through the north, and we went through Turkey, and then from Turkey we went to Bulgaria. Bulgaria is so beautiful. Oh my God, we went from the mountains, staying with the eagles up in the mountains, down to the coast. I mean, it was just so beautiful the way we went through. We ended up through Czech Republic. I always wanted to go to Prague. That was absolutely stunning. Hungary, Czech Republic. Then I think we went Germany, France, a little bit of Belgium, and crossed to UK, England, and then Wales was where we landed. But what an experience. I mean, in takes a long time to cross Turkey. I never realized how big that place is.
Very, very big country.
It's huge and so diverse. I mean, we stayed in caves the first few nights, and it was magic. I mean, I remember my son, he still remembers it now, how he woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning with Allah Akbar. For me, after living in the Middle East as a child, it's quite therapeutic, that noise. But for him, it's like, oh my God, there's a dragon or something. He was really freaked out. And he still says now, he goes, God, that noise really frightened me, Mum. And because we were in the caves, and the noise in the caves was quite amazing. It was so cool there. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. I mean, that takes a lot of courage to drive a old double cabin. Did it never break down?
Amazingly, it didn't.
Didn't.
And my husband, stupidly, he put the insurance documents in the suitcase, which went with our stuff by sea, the other side, and it was in the container. And we're like, we get to the end of the Schengen border, and they're like, oh, okay, where's your paperwork? And we're like, ah. So he had to call up his insurance people in Cyprus, and thank God for Cyprus. What a sweetheart this lady was. She goes, it was like 6 o'clock at night. She goes, hey, don't worry, I'll go tonight. I'll go to get your file. I'll copy it. I'll email it to you. I mean, I've got to love Cyprus for that. They were spot on. So yeah, they did that. I must say the worst part of that journey was the boat crossing from the north of Cyprus to Turkey. We didn't think we'd come out of that alive because it was so hot and so skanky in there. It was like, oh my God. It was like, oh, I was like, I can't believe I've got kids in here. We're all going to die crossing the river, crossing the sea.
How long is it? How long is that?
Oh God. It was overnight. Yeah, it was overnight. I don't know why it was overnight, but yeah, I can't remember how many hours it was. I'd have to ask Clem, he would remember. But yeah,
it can't be that long.
It can't be that long, but yeah, we slept.
Fascinating. And yes, I mean, those countries that we don't really know so well, like you say, Bulgaria, because I was a tour guide for 11 years, but I only found out about all these places when I was working for the police, because that's when I started going to the Balkans and to Romania, Bulgaria. Beautiful, so much beautiful.
So stunning. They are so beautiful, so green, but they have like the heat, not on par with Cyprus, just a little bit less, but so green. Yeah. They are stunning. And Hungary as well is gorgeous.
Oh, yes. And less humidity, of course. That's usually what does it here, because like now we've had quite good weather until a couple of days ago. And then when the humidity comes in, then it gets unpleasant. But anyway, it's summer and we have to live with it. Yeah. So you were back in the UK, and because I want to talk a little bit about what you do, I want to talk a little bit about the power of herbs, and I want to talk about the books that you are writing, because you never stop. You had another baby.
I did have another baby. Yes, we're now in Somerset. We were in Wales for about 18 months. It was a good landing. You know, my family have a home there, so it was a great landing pad. But, you know, Wales, like, for like Panargodalia, has a certain way of looking at things. But we also knew it was a short gap for us. So we go there every month to kind of rejuvenate ourselves in the forest there. But equally, yeah, we were looking for something else. And so now we're in the southwest of England. And that's where we made our baby, our little bonus baby, as we say. You know, we had one of each, a boy and a girl, and then suddenly we have a bonus baby, which was apparently made in Wales, the last week of Wales, because my beloved husband did not trust the Welsh doctors to give him the snip. I'm like, darling, it was that we were being so careful. But yeah, she was definitely a gift, and definitely heaven sent, because I remember at the time thinking, I can't have a third baby. I really can't. I'm just feeling like I'm getting my body back. And this little voice came through saying, give me a chance. I'll be easy. And it's like, wow. And she's an absolute Trojan. And for 5 planets in Capricorn, and we've just had a supermoon in Capricorn. But yeah, she's really easy, and she's just a really, what a blessing she is.
That's so sweet. You help people with all sorts of health problems. You do consultations with people. What can herbs do? How much can herbs do?
Yeah, well, herbs are an original medicine. I mean, we're where we're meant to be on this planet, really. We didn't fall from grace. This is grace. It's everywhere you look. But yeah, because, you know, if you break us down into cellular component, you know, there's a little bit of us in the sea, there's a little bit of us in the stardust, a little bit of us in, you know, each of the plants, calcium, magnesium, it's phosphorus, it's all there. We've all got the same makeup in us. We're just a bit more of a complicated makeup. And it's only the brain that says we're more complicated anyway. But yes, what can herbs do? Well, you can have remarkable recoveries with herbs, and they can also maintain and sustain health to keep you healthy. I mean, one thing I love about being a herbalist and medicine woman of such is that we can call a herb anything that heals. So food is a great healer. One of the greatest things is garlic, for example. I mean, it's antifungal, it's antiviral, it's antibacterial. It's going to help to keep your gut bacteria in balance. You know, it's going to treat athlete's foot. It's going to keep your immune system in check. So, you know, you can fight off loads of allergies, which we really need to be more aware of these days. And, you know, it's herbs can do so much. You know, lemon in water, for example, is very alkalizing. It's going to help stop disease having a hold in your body, you know. So, yeah, loads of things. Like rosemary helps your body to digest fats. So if you eat it, it's great for your memory. It's great for uplifting. Everything does something. And there's a lot of, in nature, there's what they call the doctrine of signatures, where nature's actually telling us what it's good for. So, for example, I don't know if you've ever seen, but a cacao bean, a raw one, looks like a set of teeth. It's amazing. It's so full of magnesium. Magnesium is essential for the teeth. It's showing us there what that's for. I saw that picture again recently. I was like, wow, yeah, that's so spot on, and maybe cleavers looks like the lymphatic system. So yeah, you can prevent disease by introducing herbs into your diet. It is the original medicine. I mean, modern medicine is only one branch of medicine, that's it, so that's important to know.
Do you feel that people are not taking enough responsibility for their health? Do you feel that people rely on that pill that there is a pill for everything?
We've been conditioned that way. And maybe I can't be hypnotized, but we definitely have been conditioned that way to, life's speeding up. We want an easy life. It's easy to pop a pill. It's not easy to have 4 cups of tea sometimes. You know what I mean? You can get that, but then the whole of modern life, it's the bigger picture, really, because we're not living as we ought to be living. We're living too fast. We're living faster than human beings need to live. We have so much awareness about what's going on the other end of the world. I don't really think that does us any favors at all.
No.
Well, in my grand's generation, she'd know what's going on up the road, and therefore they would be there for their neighbor. They would be able to, okay, so-and-so's family, the mother's really sick, right? Let's all pull together. Let's go and help the family now and be there for them. There is this in the Greek culture, in the villages, very much so, supporting each other. And that's something that, and then they're in touch with it. I know from living with the villagers in Aquadalia, certain times a year, it's carob time, and it's carob melo. You're going to make your carob syrup, and it's going to take you 4 days of stirring that stuff in water, to make suzuko. I made some when I moved to Froome, and I sent a picture to my dear friend, bless her. She has just passed, Daphne. What a star she is. And I sent a picture of her. She goes, Agori, you're making suzuko, which is this, it's almonds on a string with grape juice, and you leave it over a certain period of days to get those different coats. It takes time to work with nature, and we're not given the time. So I think that we have no choice sometimes but to have a pill. But it's very important for our entire being to go back to nature and to realize, okay, if I take this, it's going to take a few days to work, but it's going to it makes your body stronger. Herbal medicine, natural medicine makes your body stronger. You become more in tune with who we are and what we are. We're not machines running around 24/7. You send an email, you expect a response. That's not how we are made. No. We're meant to sit down. In the summer, we're meant to enjoy it. Right? We're not meant to be working harder. We're meant to enjoy it. In the winter, we're supposed to go inwards, and we're supposed to reflect and spend time being still. And nobody does that. You work Christmas time is stressful. It's wrong.
But I think it's stress that we put upon. Each person does that individually, and unfortunately we have the pressure of the society that makes us everybody do it. But you said something very important that I always say: we know too much. It's not necessary to know everything, and because the moment we know something, we cannot unknow it. Once we know it, and that's when it occupies our mind, and we don't need to know everything. And the other thing is, we don't have any patience. We don't have patience, as you say. Pop a pill. It's easier to pop a pill than even to make a cup of tea or to take and to be honest, I try to be good, and I take very few pills, but I sometimes can't be bothered to take the tea out, but when I have a headache, when I feel I have a headache, very often all I do is drink a big glass of water because I feel like I'm dehydrated, right?
Totally. 100%. You're spot on. You've worked out for yourself 100%. I mean, things like headache and high blood pressure, they're related to dehydration. And unfortunately, when you start to feel thirsty, that's the last sign, she says, drinking water. That's the last sign of us that we actually are dehydrated long before we're actually thirsty. Because, we're made up of like 70% water. We need a lot more than that, actually. We need as much water and saline water too. We need salt water to put Himalayan sea salt in your water is very healthy for you to keep that electrolyte balance. There's loads of things like, we also need to alkalize, because stress in its own right is very acidifying, and disease is like cancer, survive in an acid body. So we need to work on our pH levels. Back in the day, we would have a lot more fresh vegetables that we would be growing from around us. Nowadays, there's a lot more fast food to go with the fast life. So we're consuming all this stuff, which is heating us up and acidifying us from the inside. So to alkalize is more green leafy vegetables, but there's also things like lemon water. It's not difficult, hot, cold water, have lemon water. I've got hibiscus tea right now. I've let my tea go cold, and I've got hibiscus tea, which is great at balancing, your metabolism and keeping you cool in the summer and warming you up in the winter. It's this type of knowledge that we're kind of missing, and it's not difficult. It's really not difficult, and that's the bit I think that annoys people so much. I go, oh my God, it's so simple. It's like, yeah, because almost like if we think something's too simple, therefore it's not worth it, there's no challenge. Therefore, we think it's not worth anything, but it's worth everything. It's worth everything. It's just we missed the point.
And I also think that it's, things can go hand in hand. I mean, there are moments when you do need a doctor. When you break a leg, you're not going to go and drink chamomile tea or this. So I think we should do as much naturally as we possibly can, and still embrace medicine, So I believe that people like you're not like, oh my God, you must never touch a pill. No, it's a good, a healthy combination of both.
Exactly. Totally. I just had a patient just message me earlier. She has a bad bout of cellulitis, and she wants to be my patient. She's not yet. And I said, well, send me a picture. And I'm looking at it, and she goes, what do I do? And I said, well, if you've got the antibiotics there, maybe you do that now, because that you can get quicker than you can get my herbs for today, So maybe you do that, and don't worry, we can sort that out afterwards. It's not the end of the world, There are times when, people oftentimes will jump for the antibiotics. It's the first point of call. It's what doctors have in their armory. We're using what we have. I have herbs in my armory. Mm-hmm. So we use what we have and to recommend. But, oftentimes there's a lot you can do. You don't necessarily need to give Calpol every time your child is having a fever. Maybe they're having a fever and you just got to manage that. And you can manage that with chamomile tea. Is so simple to bringing down a fever. It's not difficult at all. Elderflower is so easy as well. There are very simple herbs that are growing around in the hedgerows, whatever country you're in, that are just easy to manage, very simple, common situations that will immediately go for a pill. Because oftentimes if you take those pills like Calpol unnecessarily, what you do is you start to push disease further into the body. The body, fever is, for example, a way of the body's immune system working to burn up any bacterial viral infection. It needs a fever to deal with it. So if you suppress that fever, it drives the dis-ease further into your body. And then we've got bigger problems. And then people like me have to go in with the herbal sledgehammers to try to break through that lot. So, there's a time and a place.
You do agree that the human body is the most amazing creation, and that it can heal itself, that it has a huge power to heal itself, and that we should definitely use it more. And we should listen to people like Caroline Evans, who has a YouTube channel as well, because whenever there is something in season, I see you showing it, telling people what they can do with it, right?
I do. Yes. I find it's really, I'm very much about giving people the information that they need to help themselves, because health is really about prevention of disease. When you get to disease state, that's when you really need to start pedaling backwards. It's hardcore. That's when, yes, surgery, all these treatments are necessary. But to prevent disease is literally like eating healthily, is taking your herbs. You can prevent a lot, assisting the body to do what it's meant to do, and trusting the system. I mean, one thing like that is natural birth. I mean, God, I'm a big advocate for that. 3 unassisted home births. There must be a complete Trojan, in a village of 28 people, where I think it was in the winter, so 8 people, at home. And it's just, that's a professional mindset, because I do have awareness of what to do and when that's right or not. But we are missing a lot of that. We just need to learn to trust our bodies more, and that's where I like to give that information. That's what I do on the YouTube channel. Is it's what is it? It's Caroline Evans Herbalist on YouTube, and it's just I've got lots of information there on loads of herbs and how you can use them, when not to use them as well, because that's important information. I'm not training anybody to be a herbalist, because that's also dangerous, because I've many, many years of training to be a herbalist. Plus then the clinical is the real training, like the 20 years clinical experience is something else. But yeah, that will definitely give people a good basis on what they can do and how they can help certain conditions as well. Because, and also holistic healthcare, because like, for example, like we're not often barefoot enough, and that's so good to people. Don't know that the body is electrical. Like there's electrical impulses. So, they see a picture of the nervous system, go, oh, that's nice. That's amazing. That's electricity running through our body all the time. We need to ground that electricity. What happens if you've got an electrical car without one of those little dangly things touching the ground? Well, you're going to be like, it's not good for your nervous system. So that's I have a lot of these tips on what you can do to help yourself at home.
Yeah.
So
we're going to put all those links in the show notes, because there are each episode there are show notes, so people who are listening will be able to find that. And you just finished your second book.
I have.
Tell us about your books.
Yes, my 2 books. Yep, Discovering the Herbs of Spring and Discovering the Herbs of Summer. Here they are. And of course, we're working on autumn now. But they're basically, I include there's a certain number of herbs per season. And what I find interesting, and people have given me the feedback on this, is the recipes that I'm putting in there, so how you can make your own remedies. So, for example, and also simple things you can do also with your family, I have small children. So we make things like elderflower fritters, or in the springtime, we make dandelion fritters, and this is just a way that, how to get my kids to take bitter foods like dandelion, which is so good for the liver, so good as detoxification, how to do that. My kids are slightly strange. They will eat them, because they've been trained from a young age to eat the weird stuff, which is really good for you. But, to fritter, you put a little bit of batter in it, you put it on honey, put honey on it. Well, my God, kids are going to take that. They're like, wow, I love them. Fabulous. They've done their spring cleanse. I'm very happy with it, without having to force them to take the most bitter and tasteless drinks. So there's lots of things in here to help people, what the herbs are useful for, how to recognize them, a bit of folklore and mythology. I'm very much into mythology. Must be my years of Cyprus and Greece. I love it. I love mythology so much. And of course, how you can use it. So yeah, this very much seems to be a year of publishing for me, of getting the information out there and in every which way I can.
Amazing. And I think when you mentioned kids, I think kids like to eat something that they have been helping make themselves. It's good to involve them. And, it doesn't matter if the kitchen is a mess afterwards. I think it's worth letting them help and letting them be part of it. Mm-hmm. And I am very aware of the time. We're already coming to the end of this, but I mean, you've already given a lot of value. And something that I paid attention to before, putting salt, Himalaya salt in the water. Is that like similar to an electrolyte that you would buy in a pharmacy?
Yes, it is, but it's one that your body recognizes. I mean, your body does recognize electrolytes. So for example, that's a wonderful thing, especially in Cyprus right now. And here in the UK, we're having a heat wave. It's beautiful. Love it. But yeah, so for example, the other day, my neighbor's a fisherman and he went out fishing. It was lovely to have someone like a old school villager next to me. And he had really bad sunstroke. So I made him some orange juice with coconut water and a pinch of salt. And that really brought him back straight away. And it's simple. It's like things like, they're all the minerals that you need. So you need potassium from the oranges and of course, sodium from the salt. They're what you've done is you've just given your adrenals and your kidneys a kickstart and therefore your whole cardiovascular system. And there you are, right back again. Other things I would say, for people to start to incorporate herbs into their food. For example, if you're having any fatty foods in your diet, you need to assist your body to digest those fats, okay? So that would be things like rosemary, oregano is great for that, marjoram, as we have in the UK, thyme. They're all flavonoid-rich herbs that are really going to help to help your body to break down the fats. And that's what we need to do, especially this time of year when, we need to be having a little bit less fatty foods and a lot more alkalizing foods to be able to cope with the extra heat. The body is shedding right now, so burgers are not your best food for the summer.
Oh, really? They never are.
They never are, you're right.
Unless they're plant-based
True.
Last question, what is the best thing to do in the morning? What is the first thing one one should eat or drink in the morning?
Well, water actually is the very first thing, because when you're asleep, you literally you dehydrate, you sweat. Just by breathing, we forget that breath is a form of detoxification. Not only are you sweating out, especially in the summer, but you're breathing out. So you actually do wake up dehydrated. So that's one thing. So a best thing to do is to have, if you can, hot or cold water, but generally hot because it has a way of your body being able to uptake it. If you have hot water with lemon is the best thing. Another alternative is hot water and apple cider vinegar. That's incredibly alkalizing. In fact, the best thing to do is to have hot water and lemon in the morning and hot water and apple cider vinegar at night, because you can have both either way. But at night with apple cider vinegar, because it promotes weight loss. So it's really very, very, very interesting. In fact, one of my YouTube channels videos is about how to make your own apple cider vinegar. And it's not difficult at all. It's so easy to make. So that would be a great thing. I would also have something, what I do have is I have barley grass in the morning, which is an alkalizing superfood. And nowadays I've started having a smoothie with spirulina and barley grass in it. And that's just really great superfood. We don't really need these big plates of, souvlaki and stuff like we used to have. It's still just lovely, but, we don't need that. We actually just need more dense, concentrated nutrition nowadays, because the amount of stress, anyone that's lived through 2020 and the amounts of stress and uncertainty that we've all endured and the suffering as a result, we really, really do need to give ourselves optimum nutrition more than ever before, more than ever. And that is like alkalize more than ever, hydrate more than ever. That's absolute. So one of the things as a result of 2020, I've got another course coming up September, October time, which is on stress and anxiety. And I'm seeing that a lot in clinic, and how to give people things that they can do to manage that themselves. Of course, someone like me is here, to manage for the serious cases, but there's a lot that we can do to prevent ourselves going downhill and things like that.
And great. I think another thing that is very, very important in life, and that's one thing that I love about you, there's a lot that I love about you, but it's having a good sense of humor and being able to have a laugh. And I think this is it for today. Caroline Evans, you are a gem. Absolutely love talking to you. Always love talking to you. We do that a lot, but this time we recorded it. So thank you so much for being on Most Memorable Journeys.
Thank you for having me. Really great to speak to you. Thank you.
If you enjoy my podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You will find all the information in the show notes.